Your colleague on the Democratic side, Joe Manchin, believes that Hunter Biden at this point is a relevant witness. This is a political proceeding. You may disagree on some things about whether this would be a relevant witness if this were a part of the judiciary branch. This is not. It's a political proceeding. If you want Bolton, it probably comes at the price of Hunter Biden. You okay with that?
You know, here's the way I look at that, Chuck. I would rather have relevant witnesses. I don't see how Hunter Biden's got anything relevant to share here about what President Trump's motivations were when he tried to extort the leader of Ukraine. But it doesn't matter what I think. I mean, I think the Democrats ought to have a list of witnesses that we want. The Republicans can put together a list of witnesses they want. I don't even want to be constrained to just 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. I think we should have multiple witnesses here to get to the bottom of this. This is not, it is political, but this is not, in the end, the senator's, democracy. This is, or the president's democracy. This is the American people's democracy. And they deserve to know what the misconduct their president has been involved with, or if he hasn't been involved in misconduct. And I think the politics of this are going to be very difficult for people who had the only responsibility out of 330 million Americans. There are 100 people with the responsibility to decide whether there ought to be more evidence here. 75% of the American people are saying we need more witnesses, we need more evidence. I wouldn't want to cast a vote against that 75%.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.